Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of the Salesably Sales Series. I'm Francesca deWysocki, and today I'm joined with our guest, an expert in the sales industry specializing in senior living sales, owner and president of Next Step Sales Management, John Greaves. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Hello, Francesca. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic.
So, today we're just going to go over a few questions just regarding your background, regarding your expertise in sales. And just to kick us off, would you like to give us a brief summary of what you've accomplished in your career and then also how you fell into sales?
And it's interesting. Very, very few people go to school and say, I'm going to spend the rest of my career in sales. They all have a different thing in mind. And uh, I go back to something my dad said many, many, many years ago when I was a little kid. And he said, John David, nothing in the world happens without first a sale. Sales is a really important thing. It's not to be minimized. And as my career went on, it really did become much, much more central, the art and science of helping guide people to a good decision, learning whether it makes sense to work together. Those loose definitions of sales have become really central to what we do and the tools we've developed. And the company that I now own is focused on helping people do just that. Flex your muscles, learn how to help guide people to good decisions. And so that's if you look back now, you can say, okay, each element of my career, from being in the creative field to being on the consulting side to working in sales and marketing and lead generation, they've they've all kind of contributed to that.
Absolutely. It sounds like you've done it all, and that's the best way to go about in sales is to see the entire industry as a whole as well. We'll get into a few fun questions. Have you ever witnessed a sales technique that shocked you?
Yes, I'm not going to name names. It
Okay.
was many, many, many years ago. I witnessed a person um, really truly chameleon their way through a sales conversation. They became someone other than who I thought I had met. And it was just a really interesting moment of someone exercising a real talent, but that also was incredibly off-putting to me.
Yeah.
And that idea that you could become someone else in the moment is, that people sometimes think, oh, yeah, that's what sales is. I have to morph into someone else. And I found it kind of sociopathic. I did not like what I was seeing and actually kind of made a commitment internally at that time to say, no, there's a better way to do this. Showing up as your authentic self should be the best person to show up into any conversation. You don't have to become someone else. In fact, trying to become someone else is frankly, I would think one of the worst things you can do. But it was incredible how effective it was for that particular person. So that was a shocking moment.
Absolutely, it sounds like it, and kind of building off that, it seems like it broke your trust in a way. Do you think it would be applicable for other situations where people aren't really getting to see them switch that character?
The the thing that I would advocate for is know your value as you show up. Know how good you are, know your expertise, know your experience, and know that you are in a position to help them exactly as created. And the person who shows up, if it's someone other than you, I mean, that's when authenticity is really, can really get heard. So no, I don't know that. I don't think I'd recommend at any point.
Okay,
Just put on someone else's costume and try to be them.
absolutely. All right, and then looking into your actual background in the senior living market, how is it different selling to younger people versus older people, and do you tailor your sales techniques differently?
I don't know that I tailor my techniques because my techniques are very straightforward. Learn enough to know what makes sense for them and present whatever next step would help get them closer to what they want or overcome an obstacle. Now, a senior may have a different set of obstacles. They may have a different set of priorities, and what they want matters. A young person is going to be looking at life perhaps from a different point of view or with a different set of beliefs, and that's perfectly okay. I think our role is to help learn what makes sense for them. And that's going to be a discovery based exercise. It's far more important the questions you ask than the solutions you present.
Gotcha. So it's not as much the sales technique as it is the sales content itself and how to identify the behaviors.
Yeah, I think just knowing the questions to ask that would reveal the information that is most valuable. I mean, that's by far the strongest way to approach any kind of problem solving or consultative sale. The presentation itself is usually pretty weak if it's not preceded by focused discovery.
And have you had any situations in the past where you see that kind of just coming to fruition, where you may have asked a question to a younger person that you've asked to an older person and it just didn't sit well?
Well, Laura and I have a combined family. We have 5 kids between us. So the 3 from my first marriage, and then my 2 bonus kids, and it is really funny when you're negotiating with people a generation younger than you. The language does change, the attitudes change. Yeah. So yes, I would say, yeah, working with younger people is definitely different, but it's very fun.
Absolutely. No, I totally get that. All right. And then last question to close it out with you is about 70% of people, and Vidal and I discussed this, don't make it in sales. Why do you think that so many people don't succeed? And why do the 30% make it? And additionally, why do you think you made it? Why are you part of that 30%?
Okay, that is, man, what a big question to wind it up.
Mhm.
The areas that I feel are extremely important for someone in sales to be clear on are first and foremost, what are your values? What do you stand for? How are you going to show up? Regardless of the product, regardless of the market, regardless of the prospect, who are you and how are you going to show up? And do you understand how that reflects itself in your behavior and your approach? So, your values, whatever they may be, need to come into the equation early because if you don't have that, you don't have a foundation to work on and work from. Um, the other area is role clarity. What does it mean to fulfill this sales role? What does it mean to take on your shoulders the burden of filling up the revenue bucket for an entire organization? The sales are the people that bring the fuel that everybody else burns in an organization. And if you're not aware and if you're not in a position to fulfill that demand, then sales may not be your your cup of tea. I think 70% lose it with sales is because they don't understand what their role really is, and they don't really have that clarity of, oh, I have a single priority, and that's to make sure I fill the bucket for everybody else.
Gotcha. And did you have any issues like getting into the sales field where you were kind of confused on your role or confused on your own values?
Absolutely. We're all growing up. So, I'm 58 and still trying to figure out what I want to do for a living. Um, I definitely like what I do right now, but if you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have been not quite clear. 10 years ago, absolutely not clear on what I'd be doing. Um, from a from a role clarity part, I spent a lot of my time first in creative and then in marketing, the lead generation. So, designing ad campaigns, designing logos, designing brochures. None of those are sales. Those are all purely marketing pursuits, and I spent a lot of my career doing that. Sales is that one-on-one conversation you're having to guide someone toward a decision. Once you realize, oh, that's all really sales is that series of conversations, it becomes really fun.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. I love that you have the versatility and like all the experience to kind of bring it to the table in terms of sales because it just makes the job so much more fun.
It's it is very fun when you see the click, when you realize, okay, yeah, this person now gets why we're having this conversation. It's a fun moment to turn that corner and you realize, okay, now we can just really focus on how do we get from here to there.
Oh, I bet. Well, John, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And I'm excited to see where your sales journey leads next.
Well, Francesca, I sure appreciate your time today. Thank you.